Hi, everyone. Welcome to High Vibes Up today, this beautiful Wednesday, September 6th, 5 o'clock. We're live, and we have Renette Senum here, two-time mayor of Nevada City in California, council member, and from what I'm understanding, you've also were going to go for a third run at mayor, and you made some executive decisions, which let me tell you real quick. I followed you several years ago, and it was probably a week before I saw you on Alpha Vedic. I'm like, what happened to her? Because if she was running for governor, she'd be my vote. And I'm like, what happened to her? And then I saw you on Alpha Vedic, and that's when I reached out. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I did make my third run, and then I stepped down and read my resignation letter instead of taking the oath for a third time because of what I was seeing behind the scenes during that period of time.
Yep, that's crazy. And I remember that whole story. And way back a couple of years ago, you were talking about a few other things, but you've got something going on right now that I believe impacts each and every one of us, from our family members to our creatures that we love to the insects on this earth and every plant you could imagine.
Mhm.
And Candy, we just want to make sure that you're included in this. And I just want both of you ladies to know that I enjoy your company and I enjoy listening to you both speak. And Renette, honestly, I did miss you out on the airwaves for a little while, and I'm glad you're back. And Candy, you're looking as beautiful as ever.
Oh, thank you, Diane. You as well.
Thanks, honey. Oh, I have to show my shirt. And remember this, everyone. United we stand.
That's
Nice.
right.
In unity, this is how we're going to take our country back. Sorry, I'm scooting myself back up into the seat. And one of the things that we really need to take a big look at is what Renette has been doing lately.
Mhm.
You want to take it?
Sure. Yeah. So, gosh, over 3 years ago, right before our lives were turned upside down, I was very much involved in fighting against the expansion of the millimeter wave known as 5G, its 5G system. And I was also fighting against the expansion of a lot of telecom. There's been a lot of overreach and unnecessary expansion. And we're seeing the results of low pollinator populations and wildlife, and also impacting our health. And so I was also very much involved in geoengineering, and there's many different forms of geoengineering. It's known as aerosol, stratospheric injections, and or stratospheric aerosol injection, excuse me, SIA. And so I was doing that, but then the last 3+ some years, I was being more focused on what was right before us, the closing down of our economies and government and all these mandates and stuff that are just absolutely beyond the reach of government. And so what's happened, though, was this last winter here in Northern California, where I am in Nevada City, we had a huge winter. 60 feet of snow was just above us. And we had trees falling everywhere. On my house, about 15 feet from here, my partner's house, we're still repairing the house from that. And we saw, again, a lot of lots of tree loss. We're talking ponderosa and firs and conifer trees that are built for snow were just snapping in half and breaking, and sudden oak death. And so we're seeing this carnage in our forest and massive pollinator bee population reduction. And this winter was so bad that I've talked to people further up the hill, and they said they're not seeing the bears, the foxes, the deer, or the squirrels at all. A lot of them did not survive the winter. And they survived other winters, but this winter started so early November and went on so long, and it was so much snow that they just couldn't forage like they usually do. And so what people don't realize is that since the 40s, we started manipulating our weather. And during Vietnam War, during when we were actually spraying over the Ho Chi Minh Trail, that was a supply trail for the Viet Cong. And what we were doing is we were actually manipulating the weather and expanding and increasing their monsoon season. And it was after that, there was actually a global treaty that said you cannot modify the weather during a time of war. Now you can during a time of peace. So there's a bit of a loophole there. So there's
Wow.
been a lot of expansion around geoengineering, and it's everything from actually our own dirty jet fuel that's extraordinarily dirty that actually collects the ice nucleates and it creates these cirrus clouds and actually changes the weather that could easily be manipulated, to smaller aircraft that are actually releasing silver iodide, to the military, the government, other nations, corporations, startup, universities, power companies. They also do a lot of weather modification. And there's no environmental impact statements. There's no public review. There's no public notice. There's nothing. And now it's actually, we know for a fact that if some research organization out there wanted to spray us with mRNA vaccinations, they could. And it's a Wild West. So, hi.
No, no, no.
Yeah, yes.
That's-
So anyway, yes. So we know this kind of stuff now. And we know that we've got to actually curtail it. So what I did after the winter is I reached out to a woman named Dina Pollard-Sachs, who's this amazing constitutional attorney. And I reached out to her because she's been a professor for 25 years. She knows like the best echelon of attorneys in their respective fields. And we actually put together the best legal team we possibly could. And I originally reached out to her to say, hey, do you know of anybody? Can you assist helping me find somebody? And she ended up, once I told her what was going on, I told her about SIAs and geoengineering and so on and weather manipulation.
And
She
you showed her the proof, and
Oh yeah,
how
I'm showing her our water samples. What happened was we had mama bears. I call them mama bears. We had these women around the state of California collecting the water, hail, and snow samples, and they're getting tested at a certified lab, and they're coming back so high in aluminum, skyrocketing in aluminum, strontium, barium, cadmium, cobalt, lead, copper. So I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Well, what I found out later on is that is being sprayed for weather modification projects and programs. But what I also found out from Jim Lee of climateviewer.org is that back in the late 90s, they changed the jet fuel to what's called JP8. And when they changed it, that's when we started seeing the streaks in the skies. And so what ended up happening was I asked them, I said, well, why are they putting these heavy metals into our jet fuel? And this comes from NATO. NATO is the one that sets the standard. And this is basically a single-use fuel. It is meant to be ready for tanks and Blackhawks and commercial airlines and military and so on. Everything. And he goes, well, it's not that they're adding in these heavy metals. They just don't take it out. They're not actually, when they're doing the refining, they're not refining them out. So they're keeping them in. And then what they do is they actually can utilize this dirty, toxic jet fuel to actually moderate the weather, change the weather, intensify hurricanes, steer hurricanes and storms, and create rain, create hail, create droughts. And it's very, very easy to actually, mess with the weather essentially. So what I did is on April 18th, I launched a Give, Send, Go called Stop U.S. Geoengineering Legal Fund. And all I was trying to do was raise about $50,000 to hire legal researchers and get the legal team going to do research to say, okay, who do we go after first? Because there's all these layers of perpetrators, right? From the small little guy in the Cessna who's going out there and just doing, some rain modification for a university or a power company to, our own government, our own military, or the commercial airliners, or we could even go after the fossil fuel industry if you really so choose. But those are huge fights, right? Those are big fights. Doesn't take millions of dollars, a big, big battle. We can do it. But to start out, we had to kind of pick a lower hanging fruit so that we can actually go out there, prove ourselves, create some street credentials, let our donors know that we're serious, that we can actually do this. And so what we did ultimately is we looked around at the corporations and businesses and so on who had filed a form with the Department of Commerce, as well as NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And this is a form they have to fill out. It's not even an application in that there's vetting or a yes or a no. They just have to fill out this little report saying, look, this is how we're going to modify the weather. These are how many hundreds of thousands of square miles. This is what we're spraying. and sometimes they say it's proprietary compounds, not even tell you what it is and what our objective is. And that's it. And then they have to do quarterly reports, but that's it. There's no public notice, no public comment period, no environmental impact statement whatsoever. And the government cannot.
We don't even get to, well, not that our votes really count, but we don't even get to have the knowledge to say, whoa, 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 buddy, no, and hell no.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. So there's something called, as we know, informed, consent.
Right.
And we're not getting informed consent with what's raining over our heads. And we know for a fact it's killing our trees. So this is what was upsetting, is that we have people who've actually taken tree bark of trees that have just fallen over and died, sent them in to labs, and they come back and the tree bark is full of aluminum. And we know what's happening is it's killing the root systems below. And then what it's doing is it's stopping the trees from actually uptaking the water and the sugars and the minerals and everything. And so they're actually dying slowly. And so I was just up about a half hour further up the hill from where I am now today. And we have ponderosas and all these other conifers, and we have now maples and oaks. And people are saying, well, they're dying from the bark beetle. They're dying from this. I'm like, no. If a tree is healthy and strong, those beetles don't attack them. It's when the tree is compromised, sick, and dying, that's when the beetles come in. The beetles are not the cause, right? They're just an effect. So what's happening is that our trees are busting up, breaking up. The fires are intensifying because aluminum also it creates more intense heat and fires and explosive fires. So we took the legal team and we looked at our different approach. We realized, okay, we can't go for the big guy. We can't go after the military right away, which is very difficult to do. Yeah. Yes, you can go after the U.S. government, not easy. You can go after the fossil fuel or the commercial, industry as well, the airline industry. But we've got to build up to that point. So there is a startup called Make Sunsets Inc. And just this last January, they got banned from the country of Mexico because they were in Baja California setting up these weather balloons with sulfur and other proprietary compounds and so on. And they're doing weather modification projects over Mexico. And when the Mexican government found this out, they said, stop doing this. You don't have our permission. You don't have our consent. And they banned experimental geoengineering. Now, the funny thing about that is all geoengineering is experimental.
Of course.
There's no geoengineer that can tell you exactly what's going to happen. It's a little like Russian roulette. So we decided to go after Make Sunsets. They are based in the Midwest. I think in the Dakota areas, and Box Elders, the town. They are actually basically having people give them money, and they're doing kind of the carbon credit thing. So the more money that you give them, the more they'll send up sulfur, weather balloons, or spray them, or these proprietary compounds, and reduce the sun, create solar dimming essentially. I don't know if people know this, but we actually need the sunshine. We need it for photosynthesis. We need it for our vitamin D. We need it for, energy production, for solar, to grow our food. We just need sunshine. And nobody's ever done these type of experiments and tests and studies to see what does it really do, even for the mental health and well-being of the average person and so on. And so we're going after Make Sunsets because if we can go after them, and they're one of those applicants, they're one of the people that actually fill out the forms with the Department of Commerce and with NOAA, saying, "Hey, we're going to be spraying. And our area of spraying is going to be the whole entire planet." Did not know that NOAA and the Department of Commerce had the permission to give for the whole planet. And by the way, we're going to do it for the next 200 years. The arrogance of these people, and these are young men from the San Francisco, kind of the Silicon Valley area. A lot of Silicon Valley investors are not geoengineers, are not environmentalists, are not climatologists, are not scientists. This is a boondoggle, and it's at our expense.
Who the hell is paying them to do this shit?
They have basically like carbon credits. They're giving them money for carbon credits.
Oh my God. They're stealing from us to pay them to poison us.
That's right. That's right. So you have all these different levels, again, and power companies have been doing it for decades. And there have been some other small weather modification lawsuits in the past. We're talking decades ago for very localized, like a power company went out and they pumped up the atmosphere with silver iodide and created a huge deluge of water, and it wiped out a levee, or it wiped out a farm or a ranch. So they've had some lawsuits where they've been successful, but there's never been one like this. And there's big geoengineering organizations out there who are out there telling people, send us money, we're doing all this, but they're not going into the ring. They tout they are, but they're not going into the ring. And if there's anyone who wants to challenge me on that, please send me the filing of these incredible court cases and their successes, because they're not out there. So there are sprinklings throughout the decades, but nothing recently and nothing at the level that we're doing.
So I have a quick question. I just couldn't believe for one moment Kristi Noem of South Dakota would say, "Come on in, spray our shit." Cover us with that. I mean, is she somebody that might be a pretty good ally for you?
Well, I don't know how much spraying they're doing there specifically, to be honest, because they're in another state, but they're spraying over the Sierras just around us. And outside of Reno, they're actually now located. This particular project that's been spearheaded is actually in Reno, which is close to us, which is where, by the way, we had 60 feet of snow. Now, whether or not they're responsible for that, I don't know, but it is kind of interesting that once they started, we got 60 feet of snow, and our nature has been whacked. I mean, the wildlife was not able to survive like it normally does. Like the beavers weren't able to build their dams like they usually do, because the rivers are just flushing out for so long in such a high volume. And a lot of the wildlife, and this is coming from the people living up there, saying, look, we're not seeing the bears and the deer, no squirrels. They could not live that long because it was the early snow, so heavy and went so long. It was like 8 months. November, December, January, February, March, April, May. So 7 months. And so a lot of wildlife didn't survive, and even the bird life is reduced. I mean, I came out of this winter and there's just not the wildlife like we had before. They got heavily disturbed. So and our forests are just a mess. They look like bombs have gone off. Looks like bombs have gone off.
So there's all of this junk in the water. It's getting in the groundwater. It's in the snow. So don't eat the snow, not just the yellow snow, but any of the snow. Is that?
No, the thing is Dina Pollard-Sachs, the attorney who's our lead attorney, when I got her aboard, I was explaining to her what it was, and so she started looking and paying attention. And one day she sent me a photograph of these streaks in the sky, and she says, "Is this what you're talking about?" I said, "Yes, this is what I'm."
Right.
Technically, people don't see it, but yes, this is what I'm talking about. And she said, "Well, that's going to get into my drinking water." And I said, "Dina, it's in your drinking water. It's in the soil. It's in your food, covered your food. It's lodged in your brain, tons of aluminum in your brain and all of our brains. It's in our organs. It's circulating in our blood. The children in particular are even more vulnerable because they have developing bodies." I said, "We are doused in it." I'm actually kind of surprised we're all still walking around as we are, but this is cumulative. And we are at a point where we are seeing an incredible collapse of our biosphere. And I have never hired an attorney my whole life, or a team of attorneys. I've never, gone out and had to, take somebody to court or been taken to court. And this is the first time I actually went out there and got a legal team together. And I don't have deep pockets whatsoever. I live a pretty simple life, but I'm like, hell or high water, we've got to do this. And I don't care what the political affiliation is. It doesn't matter who you are. This is shortening your life. It's reducing your health. It's reducing the well-being of our lives, including even the pollinators. We now know for a fact honeybees have so much aluminum in them that they now have Alzheimer's. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. So
Oh my
this
God.
is dire, and I'm more of like a libertarian, but I'm an environmentalist, and I don't mean a climate change, which is really climate engineering. I believed in climate change. I used to start organizations around climate change. I apologize. It's a boondoggle. It's a lie. It's a cover. What we discovered is what's really heating up the planet and killing everything is not climate change, but actually a dome that is being created from all of the jets and the commercial airlines and the ships, and their huge commercial ships with their huge smokestacks blowing out what's called bunker fuel. And those
Wow.
are also very high in soot as well, and heavy metals. And it's creating this warm layer where the bad UV rays are coming in, the unhealthy UV rays are coming in, toasting everything, while it's holding in the heat and creating this heat bubble because, right, the sun, is coming in and then not being able to reflect out, and the heat's not being able to be released as well. It's not climate change. It's actually been caused from us going out there and absolutely toxifying and dirtyfying our atmosphere is what's really going on.
I've heard also that, apparently, in this, this confusing world of, what are we in or on or whatever? Is it round? Is it flat? Is it a toroidal field? Whatever the hell it is, I don't care. We're here. I haven't seen it with my own eyes, so I don't know.
Right.
But apparently, some scientists say that we're going through a very energetic place in space.
Right.
And somehow they can get the temperatures off of other planets, and their temperatures are rising too. So, you know what I'm saying? I think that it could also be some of that as well, that we might be going through an energetic, what they call an energetic place in space. And they're all heating up, and then they're doing this extra added bonus of BS and, wondering, we don't know why you're sick. Oh, well, take some of our crap that we just,
Right.
it makes me
Right.
crazy.
It does make us all crazy. And so, no matter what, carbon trading, 15-minute cities, not eating meat, not being able to travel more than 2 miles from your home, being taxed for driving, being taxed for living, being taxed for going to a city, none of that is going to save us. And I say to people, if you are really concerned about climate change, if that's your thing, which for whatever reason, the environmental movement has been usurped by the climate changers. You don't hear about environmentalism any longer. You don't hear about actually caring for the planet and making sure we have clean water and soil and lakes and rivers and food or air. You don't really hear that anymore. It's all about, oh my gosh, climate change. And so I say to people, if you're really concerned about climate change, the best thing you could do is actually rebuild your topsoil.
Right.
Right? Rebuilding your topsoil, believe it or not, it ends up that it is a fabulous carbon sink. If that's your thing, you want a carbon sink. It's great for a carbon sink. When you have storm, the rain actually gets absorbed into the soil and recharges the aquifers instead of going into the riverways and the Pacific Ocean. It creates more nutritionally dense food. It actually expands the pollinator and the diversity of the pollinators and the birds and the wildlife. It reduces fire danger, and believe it or not, it actually creates rain. There's certain little bacteria that goes up into the air and helps the moisture droplets collect and actually creates and changes the weather. I never hear anybody talk about that. And I say, until you talk to me about rebuilding the topsoil first and foremost, don't talk to me about a carbon tax, being carbon neutral, about cap and trade, about, 15 minutes. Don't talk to me, because all that is, and I've been inside, I was in the green movement. I have seen it with my own eyes. It is one gigantic boondoggle. I'm sorry, but it is.
The money grab.
Yeah. And, what I learned is that the green movement, alternative energy may have started out well intended, but by the time it got to market, it got so co-opted, so watered down, so covered up. And I've been saying this as well. People are like, well, what do you like? Do you like solar, Renette? Do you like wind? I'm like, look, I can't tell you, because I've been in solar. I've been in the building science world, the green economy world. And what I learned was they'll present these alternative solutions as like, oh, look how much money, energy you'll save. But they never, ever, ever give you what's called the cradle to grave calculation, which is like, for instance, in building science, it was all about, rebuilding and retrofitting your houses or building new houses to this, building science level. But what they don't tell you is like, okay, if you're going to rip out your single pane windows, right? And you're going to rip out your insulation and you're going to do this and that, and you're going to haul that stuff off to the dump. And then you have to have someone out there mine all the products, create it with energy and water and power. Then you have to make the packaging, deliver it, and so on. And then all that throwing stuff away. Okay, what is the energy, the water, and resources used from the beginning, from the cradle, all the way to the day you no longer use it and you throw it away? What's the energy of that? What is the carbon footprint of that? Never can we find an answer to that.
I
We
would
can-
imagine it's massive.
And it's massive. And so I say, look, this is Javon's paradox, where you can make matters worse by trying to make them better. And we don't have all these other extra chances. Like it's like now or never. So we had to have a real serious conversation. And to be honest, when I look at the biggest answers to some of our biggest challenges, over and over and over again, it's the same answer. It's relocalization. It's think local. It's like grow your food locally, right? Raise your meats locally, right? Create local regional industries. You can provide as much as possible. Like really, like American made is fantastic, because now that we've exported all of our industries to other nations who do
Right.
not have environmental regulations, so we've actually exported the environmental damage to other nations, but we're still on the same planet or whatever. And so you over there, and then once you have them make these products, and a lot of the raw materials shipped from us to them to make the products, then you have them shipped over on these huge cargo ships that are the size of cities, gigantic smokestacks with bunker fuel. They're spewing out far more than even the 100,000 flights we have any time in America at any given moment. And so in order to slow that down and stop that polluting, go local, buy local, produce local, eat local. And so as scary as this all may seem, the big challenge for us is actually the public education, like teaching people about what really is going on, what geoengineering really is, how it's really happening, and that the power is really in our hands. And that is go local. Do not be dependent on a centralized system. Why would you want to anyway? They want us in 15-minute cities, right? The big banks want us in 15-minute cities. They want us in concentration camps. Go local and decentralize yourself, your banking system, your food network, your farming, your industries. Decentralize absolutely as much as possible and stop being so hard on the planet.
Wow. That is, I mean, you took on not just one thing, you took on 1,000 different little things that make the one thing.
Right. Yes. And it is 1,000 little things. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you could, just sit here in your own mind and figure this all out. This has been something that I've looked at since I was a child, and, and loved nature and loved to be out in nature, loved to be outside all the time. And, I live in a high desert area. So, there's like 3 months out of the year that's nice to be outside. Otherwise you're freezing your ass off or you're burning up. Right. I look around this beautiful country of ours, and we are, talking about the United States, but that doesn't mean your country isn't as beautiful as ours. Every country has its diversity. We are all breathing the same air. We are all having the same water issues. This doesn't just happen here. But when I look around and I say, I don't really, the high desert isn't really for me. I like that more tropical green, less is more. I'd rather have a bathing suit top on, a sarong, and some flip-flops, and that's it all year round.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where is that? I mean, the bottom line is you can come up with, 50 names of cities and towns around the world, but where are you going to be able to get that purity, that cleanliness, that nature that we all fantasize about, even just 100 years ago, 200 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
It's insane how insane these assholes have become, and they just think they could do whatever they want to us because we don't know, and there's somebody in control that frickin' knows the answer, and they don't care that we're not being told about it.
Right. I've had a lot of people say to me, well, have you ever thought about leaving California? It's really bad, or leaving the States. And I'm like, you can't run from this.
No, you
Now,
can't.
I've had friends who've moved and they've gone somewhere, and then, a month later they get flooded out by a river, or all of a sudden a tower goes up and they're trying to get away from 5G, and then a 5G tower goes up where they just moved. So you can't escape this. And this is really about rooting in where you are and defending and drawing the line where you are. And so, like, even watching Maui, what's going on with Lahaina, I'm really hoping that we get a call from the locals saying, look, we're going to, surround the fence that dust fence around the crime scene, and we're going to, hold a vigil and then slowly just gently take that thing down, because these are criminals and these are high crimes and misdemeanors and so on, and we're just it's a free for all right now. They're just getting away with it. There's nobody watching the hen house. So it's really, no one's coming to save us. I hear about these white hats. I don't see them really doing anything. I hear about them, but I don't see anything happening. I hear about people saying, "Oh, Trump's going to save us." I'm like, okay, good for you. Glad you keep thinking that. No, I've seen enough concerns to not believe that either. I believe that we're led on to believe and hope and pray that somebody's going to save us. I'm like, you guys, it's us. It's us. And that's right. It's us. And so
this is the only way we're going to stay standing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it feels, everyone I know is in a pressure cooker right now, and that's by design. And I try to explain to people, like, look at, this is 5th generation warfare, psychological warfare. It's a warfare it's war for your mind. And
Absolutely.
It's a silent war in that it's not the normal type of kinetic warfare that we associate with wars. That comes later. It's this kind of stuff. It's the disinformation. It's the Biderman's charter coercion, which is basically what they use to brainwash, POWs, in wars, World War II, and so on. And you have to be cognizant of it, and you have to see the patterns of it, and you have to understand that it's death by 1,000 cuts, not like one fell swoop, right? And the objective is to disintegrate us from the inside out. That's why you see what's going on with the fentanyl problem in the cities and around the country. That's why you see people in the streets, shooting up. That's why you see communities have splintered because of this. All of that is happening. And that is 100% by design. That's what you do before you go in and actually bring in the troops, bring in the drones, which I'm really worried about the drones, bring in the foot soldiers. And that's when you come in, is once everything disintegrates. And so I tell people that, is very similar to what happened to us again in Vietnam, where Viet Cong, they did not, for our servicemen and women, they did not shoot to kill. They shot to injure. They always shot to injure. And they did that because, you got with one bullet like 8 people, because if somebody was injured, they have to go out there, pick them up, get them in the helicopter and take them away, and then try to keep them alive. And that means, you take out 8 people, 10 people with one bullet. And so that's what's happening here with this as well, right? It's not immediate. It's not happening because it'd make us too aware too quickly, but we have to circle around, have to circle our wagons around our loved ones who are sick, right? Not doing well, can't work, can't go out and apply for a job. You see our economy just crumbling. People are no longer applying for jobs. Why? Because they can't work. I mean, there's this disintegration. 100%. We are in World War. That's what we are.
Yeah. World War, whatever they want to call it.
Right. I know, maybe it's 4 5 by now. I mean, right. I don't know now, right? It's like, who knows really?
Exactly. And I do believe this was all engineered. I believe that the entity that calls itself the top dog here, whatever it wants to call itself, I believe that that is needing to be, pacified, satisfied with what it is that's going on. This has been a plan that's been in action for years. This didn't just happen 2-3 years ago, everybody. This started a long time ago when, the Kennedys put in the mandate for, childhood these, the poison apples. I mean, they're the ones who did that. So, everybody wants to think, Kennedy is, the great guy. Maybe the thoughts behind that were genuine and great, but that doesn't mean that this doesn't come out to be a bad deal. And
well, these are not what they used to be.
No.
I mean, I go traveling. I have no problem. I go and get extra. I'm like, okay, sure. I'll never do it again, because I now know it's almost like pet food, right? Pet food that we used to feed our cats and dogs 20, 30 years ago is not the pet food we feed them today.
Nope.
The pet food we feed our animals today is poison. If you give them those kibble, I can tell you right now, it's poison. Your dogs aren't going to live long. They're not going to live well. They're going to get achy. They're going to have cancers, because it's not healthy food. It's not food anymore. It's cancerous. Right. And the same thing with these things. They may have been good at one point, but we never talk about sanitation, right? We never talk about the impacts of that. Or healthy immune system, the terrain theory. We don't talk about that. You're not allowed to talk about that. And what I see is there's definitely a silence around that information about, like, look, if you have a healthy constitution, you're fine. Doesn't matter what comes at you, you're fine.
Right.
And we can't have that conversation. It's like always the answer's outside. The solution's always outside. And I'll never do this again. I don't care what's happening. Never. So, it's been a long time coming. And so I've been horrified. And when it comes to, voting and so on, people say, well, do you believe in voting? I'm like, look, there's no doubt there's corruption with our elections. There's no doubt. But especially when it comes to the local issues, the local ballot initiatives, voting is important. The closer the vote gets, right, the issue, the more important it is. Now, when it comes to this next election, to be honest, A, I'm not really sure we're going to have one. And
Yep.
B, I can tell you right now who already won. I can tell you who won. He's already got the place. It's just a dog and pony show, right? It's Newsom. Newsom's already got the position.
Yeah, but I can't stand that clown.
No, it's not about you standing him. They've already given he's got a position. He's running, but did you see him campaigning? I mean, at least Kennedy you see all over the place. Newsom's not even campaigning. Why? Because he already knew he won. He's already, they've got him in. They've got it rigged. He's there. He didn't have to run. He doesn't have to go out there and campaign. I mean, when you look at how many people did Biden reach? Nobody showed up to his rallies. They didn't care because it was all rigged. And now I see this Trump trial and it's going to be televised. Like, you guys, this is puppetry. This is theatrics. I mean, it's the reason why they call it the theater of war, is it really is a lot of theater. And I'm like, the fact that they're going to publicize that court case tells me they want a circus. They want to distract you while they're over here really doing the deed. And they're all playing their part. I can tell you right now, Newsom's in. He's as good as in.
Oh, I
know. Don't get me going. I can't stand the man.
I-
The man is just sleazy. He's as sleazy can be.
Yeah.
Sleazy as can be. And he's also, he's just horrific. He's horrific to women. He's horrific to everybody. He's double standards, does not apply what he applies to other parents and children. He does not apply to his own children,
I remember how smug he looked when he went through what the hell was that called?
Fire. Was it?
When we had to vote for someone else to be
the recall.
Yeah, the recall. And he was just so smug. And it was like, I said, oh my God, this clown cannot get back in there. Because that's exactly what he is a clown.
He's a clown. He's a CCP, Chinese Communist foot soldier is what he is, a CCP. He is working for them. Biden is working for them. All the Democrats are working for them. A lot of Republicans are working for them. Sorry. When I ran for governor for the state of California this last general election, actually was the primary, in 2022, it was really fascinating, the level of censorship and silencing and so on going on. And it was very clear to me then that the CCP has a stranglehold on California, and they have a stranglehold on this whole country, and they're just waiting. They're just waiting for us just to keep crumbling. And they and Russia are going to be there, doing their thing. And so there is an awakening going on. There are a lot of people waking up really, really fast, but it's like a race to the finish line. Right. And so, I tell people, it's like, you've got to take this very seriously, and you've got to, start having those weekly potlucks with the people well, and build your medical network, system in case there's ever a medical emergency, and where do you get your food and your dairy products and your meats, and what's your communication, and how do you defend yourself from fire, and there's all these things we have to do. And I know it sounds overwhelming, but if you come at it by yourself or just with your family alone, it's not going to be enough. You're not meant to do it alone. We never have. And so, rounding the circling those wagons and making it fun. I mean, having fun, laughing. The enemies don't like us being in joy and laughing, so I do it a lot. And so making sure it's joyful and easy to do. And we've been doing it for over 3 years. We've been having weekly potlucks.
Yeah, so I have a quick question about that. I mean, do you have these kind of conversations, or are you just getting to know your neighbors and
Well, these are actually we're on as good terms as we can be with our neighbors. Some neighbors are awesome, some are not so awesome. So it's kind of like you do the best you can.
Right.
But these are people who are like-minded, like-hearted, and we're very diverse religiously, politically, ideologically, and yet there are certain basic freedoms, like, understand, like, the right to free speech, medical choice, to grow your own food, to homestead, have a political say, to, be able to question authority. And there's certain basic things. And so anything goes. Nobody, I mean, you could pretty much say anything you want around the table and we'll listen or we'll laugh. And irreverence, we love to be a bit irreverent, I have to say. We love to kind of, be irreverent also and do things like that too. And so we just have a great time. But these are people we just kind of, it was almost like an energetic heart type of thing where like you can relate. And we're there. We've got each other's backs. In emergency, boom, we're there. We back each other up. Like if someone's moving, they have to paint, we'll paint. Someone's sick, we'll bring you the medicine. Somebody needs help, you're a fire, you need to move, whatever, we're there. And so this, we all have the same two-way radios, and we even have a special channel for our group alone. And we have, this is plan A, plan B, plan C. We sat around the table during our potlucks and even had a couple special little meetings where we did a SWOT analysis, which is where you ask what's your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So we shared, like, what are your skill sets? Okay, this is what I'm good at. This is what I have. I have a generator. I have a fire truck. I know how to, to skin and butcher rabbits. I know how to grow food. I know how to make tinctures, things like that. Then your weaknesses, I'm not very good at this, or we're not that, or we're missing this. We as a group, we need these things. We don't have it. And then your opportunities. Okay, this is the opportunities we have for us. If something goes wrong, we can go here, we can go there, we can bring that in, we can bring that person in. And then the threats, like, okay, what is it that we do not have working for us? What do we not have in place that we need to have in place, like prioritize? And so we did that. And these are our people. So it's not our immediate neighbors. It could have been before 3 years ago, but we're not there anymore. It's really sad. So we've had to redefine our circle of friends, and it's extremely powerful.
Is there some place that you found all of that, start getting your people in here, start finding out what their strengths and weaknesses are? How do you talk to them about it? I mean, I would really like to know that kind of stuff, because right now I feel like the frickin' Lone Ranger.
Well, I have a Substack. It's called Renette Senum's Foghorn Express.substack.com. Renette Senum's Foghorn Express.substack.com. It's free, though I ask people if you can pay $5 a month, great, but it's free. It's not behind a paywall. And if you go to Renette Senum's Foghorn Express, you'll see there's a search bar up in the right. Pop in SWOT, and 1 to 2 different articles will pop up there that will give you the SWOT analysis. It'll also give you the 100 first items that run out during a time of people, going out and hoarding. And so there's a lot of stuff there that you can utilize to help you establish your circle, your posse. And again, it's as easy as, you're like, I don't know anybody. Do you know one person that you resonate with? Say, hey, let's have a potluck once a week, once every 2 weeks. And then you bring another person in. And so what we do is we have our core people, and we got our first core people when everything was shut down, right? So we were doing this, and when we showed up at our home, we made sure everyone had their phones at their house. Like, do not bring your phone here, right? Because they were tracking us. We know counties are tracking us. So we come in, we have these incredible organic potlucks, best food, really great time. And we just got to know each other. And then what we did is we closed it down where it was like our core group, and we really never expanded it again. But what we did do is, like, once a month or so, we'd open it up to people in our core group and said, what, I know so-and-so. Is it okay if I invite so-and-so and her husband in to join us? We're like, sure. And sometimes we say, oh, no, not them, because of this reason, it's not kosher, it's not good. And so we would have people kind of come through, and some of them come through quite a few times. And we had a 3-year anniversary a few months ago. So we had 60 people over. And so we have our core, but we have people kind of come through this so they get introduced to our concept, what we're doing. And they say, okay, now go home and do the same thing. But we're still also kind of cross-pollinating, right? So we're not just like, exiling them and they never come over again. But the reason why we do that is because we can't afford to have 60 people coming over every week, right? We can't do that. And we have such a good dynamic group that has a really good symbiotic relationship. You also don't want to bring someone in who can actually maybe even rock the boat. That's happened too a couple of times. We're like, whoa, wait a second. Oh, we put the cart before the horse. And so we're just very protective of the group, but we open up in a certain way where we vet the people, we know who they are, and it's a process. And it's worked really well for 3 years.
Okay, I like this. It's a great idea, and everyone that's listening, I don't care what country that you're in, family, you need to take care of you.
Yeah.
And you need to take care of your neighbors. Everybody is your family. Everybody. Everybody, even that jackass next door if you have one.
Yeah. I mean, I've got some neighbors who I used to be very close to. I mean, we would see each other regularly, and they don't even acknowledge me any longer. It's really shocking because I was mayor when everything hit, and I was trying to, call out our rights, our constitutional rights, and how a governor does not have unilateral power to go out there and force these things on our faces. And
Right.
I was also speaking on behalf of the people who were afraid and scared and had real reasonable concerns. And my community, and I've been raised here since I was 4, did not like that for the most part, especially in Nevada City proper, much more liberal.
Wow.
And to this day, they're still angry. And I'm like, listen, I was giving up our friendship in order to try to save your life. And you're going to have a hard time convincing me these last 3 years that I wasn't right, because everything I was calling out and trying to warn you all on has been spot on. And so, but even then, the ones I'm still have a good copacetic relationship, I try to keep that, develop those relationships. And even the ones like I have across the street from me, my former legal counsel from city council, and he used to butt heads when I was on city council, so much. And we got into some good spit fights, I'll tell you. And but it doesn't matter. When he's across the street, I'm like, hey, how are you doing? And I'm still say hi to him, and I'm copacetic with him because like he's still my neighbor. And if something's wrong, I'll call them like, hey, something happened. You see a tree fell in the neighbor's house,
Right.
So I try to keep those relationships still good. I don't go out of my way to destroy them, but the last 3 years they have deteriorated. Like a lot of people, I've heard the same story. I mean, I've heard the story by thousands of people. But we have established a circle of friends that are so tight that we would stand next to each other and die for each other, type of thing. Like we would, we'd stand and fight to the death for each other. We know what's at stake. We get it. We know
Yeah.
how serious it is.
And you know what? Those people that are, having an issue or, staying angry or for whatever decision or reason, trust me, when the shit hits the fan, they're going to know who's the strength in the neighborhood, and they're going to be there with, hat in hand. How can I help? Because do I want to be inside your walls or do I want to be outside your walls? And they know damn well.
It's established. I know how to make a stand. I can take the heat. I don't back down. And yet I'm a leader and I'm a team player. I adjust myself accordingly. But I know how to stand my ground. And the fact that I can stand my ground right here in my neighborhood, no cushion whatsoever, for 3 years, and I was attacked. I mean, I was attacked.
I remember.
Yeah, it was bad. And so people know that, I got a pretty thick skin and a fast rebound. So
Awesome.
yeah.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you would like to talk about? Is there
Well,
something else that you've got out there that you would like to mention that could possibly be YouTube friendly?
Right. And I'm too sorry if I slipped earlier. So
Yeah. It's all, we just played
they
it
do
off.
have a little editor in there. Maybe you can go in there and just and clip it really fast before
Yeah.
that was my suggestion. I usually don't slip up like that. But I would just say please, please go to Renette Senum's FoghornExpress.substack.com because I pull together points and I have a lot of solutions. I talk about, problem solutions and everything else you're not supposed to talk about. And so I do point out things, like, hey guys, I want you to see this, what's going on. But I also do provide a lot of solutions and let you know you're not alone. So that's really great to get people to, sign up on that. And then really go to saveourskies.org. And I will be having a big event. We're launching our second phase of our big legal fight on October 6th here in Nevada County, California. It's actually at the Banner Community Guild on McCourtney. It's on October 6th, 6 p.m. We're showing a documentary called Unconventional Gray. And this is by Michael J. Murphy, who actually produced and directed What in the World Are They Spraying? Why in the World Are They Spraying? And when those came out, I think about 2011, What in the World Are They Spraying? He began to get targeted and he was never able to complete his last film, Unconventional Gray, and it was gone for the last 7 years. It just disappeared. It just resurfaced a few weeks ago.
Oh,
And it is exactly what we've been facing here today. Exactly. And so we're doing a special screening of this. And so if you go to Save Our Skies, or actually even this evening, I'll be putting out on my Substack information about this event. And it's a fundraiser to put towards Save Our Skies, to put towards a legal battle, to educate people with Unconventional Gray. And we'll have some special experts Zoom in as well to answer questions for people. But if we don't get a handle on our skies really soon, we're toast, because we are being sprayed like bugs. Everything from the microbiome of the soil to the, as I said, the birds, the wildlife, even the unborn are being, impacted by this relentless spraying.
so
And
oh, go ahead. No, go
no,
ahead.
so yeah, they're doing it at every level, from really close, 15, 20,000 feet to 50,000 feet, really high.
So how do we rebuild our topsoil? What is the process? How can we do that in our backyard, our front yard?
Well, first of all, one of the things is that with all this defensible space around fires, they're having everyone clear off, rake off all the leaves and everything off the soil. And of course, you're reducing your ladder fuels, right? You're trimming up further, so that's good. But the problem is that we're actually reducing the topsoil that we need. You want those leaves and so on, but you can also add your food waste. You add cardboard, leaves. There's all this stuff that you can actually add, and what you do is, I recommend, is you start immediately around your house and important structures, and you rebuild your topsoil there. And you can also do certain other kind of like biochar is also pretty good, and other green waste and so on. And so I suggest, because one of the things they talk about defensible space, but what they don't talk about is that having a healthy, cool topsoil and also green plants cools down and creates a cool, humid dome essentially around your property, around your home. And so while they're saying, oh, do this defensible space and limb up and clear out, but what you're doing is you're creating this wind tunnel for the embers to fly. Well, that's okay, great, except for if it's flying over hot, dry, brittle land, the embers will continue to stay, hot. And then they'll hit your house, get lodged in your house, go into the attic, and they'll burn your place down. So what I personally saw in Paradise after it happened, I was on the city council when it happened. I was vice mayor, and I went there. Everything was charred. Looks very much like like Lahaina.
I know.
Was not natural. Was absolutely an attack as well. And what shocked me is that there was one place in the whole entire place of Paradise where it was green and untouched, and there was a wooden building in the middle. And I was like, "What the heck is this?" And what it was a cemetery. And in the middle was this wooden building that was untouched. And the reason why is because when all those embers and that firestorm was coming, while the embers and that heat was traveling over this dome of cool humidity, and it cooled down the fire enough so that when the embers and the heat hit the structure, it wasn't that hot. And so I think it's a great disservice not to tell people that while you're clearing and doing your defensible space, you need to work on creating this humidity. In fact, the people up in BC who are reaching out and crying out through a text saying, "Hey, look at our fire departments aren't helping us, and they're starting these backfires right by us, and they're expanding the fires."
I saw that.
And they said that they saved their home. And this other gentleman, an old guy with a hose on his house, just kept spraying around his home and created this humidity dome, this cool dome of moisture, and the embers went all around it. And so I want people to understand that you can defend your own place and you can protect yourself. And part of rebuilding the topsoil helps you do that, creates nutritionally dense food, brings back the pollinators, brings back the good, healthy weather. And so there's a lot more power in our hands than we realize. And so, what I would do is just go out there and I would Google how to build up my topsoil. And permaculture, learning about permaculture will teach you how to do manure, right? Chicken waste, stuff like that. All the stuff you put out in your soil and you make it abundant. So you have lots of worms and microbiomes and a lot of diversity within the soil itself. And so there's tons of different courses and classes and books and YouTube videos on how to build up your topsoil.
That's awesome, because I live in mostly a desert environment.
Yeah.
So, and actually, let me just say this here. Last year, we had probably 3 weeks during the summer. I mean, not back to back, but if you wanted to add up 3 weeks, maybe more, that we were in the hundred teens.
Boy,
Okay, so this summer, I think it's gotten to 109. It might have gotten to 111, maybe a half a dozen days. So, excuse me, we're not having a hotter summer, because if we were, I'd be, it'd be so freaking hot here. And because I experienced that last year, and we're in an El Nino, which of course none of the weather, whatever the hell they are, certainly not reporters, are talking about.
yeah, I've been saying this for years that I think we're actually going into a freeze. And that was actually more, that was intuition. That was like 12, 15. I was like, no, I think we're going into but that's when I still believed in climate change. But my gut was like, no, for some reason, I think we're going into a big freeze. And now I know climate change is just one big lie. I'm sorry, but it is. And the person who was actually perpetuating it, and as I said, starting organizations around it and trying to educate people around it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so wrong. But I think we're going more into a big freeze.
For a big cold winter. 2 years ago, I got this intuition. So when I get my intuition, I just act on it. 2 years ago, everybody got waterproof boots that were good for negative 30 degrees. They all got waterproof jackets, waterproof pants that were lined and all that stuff. And everybody's looking at me like, what the fuck are you doing? Right. And I said, you'll thank me one day.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's like whatever they say, it's generally the opposite, so.
Exactly.
Yeah, it really is. It's this really Orwellian thing. And I tell people too, just look at, I was in 86, 87 as this 20-year-old girl. I was in South Africa during the height of apartheid. I went to Hurricane Katrina twice after that event. And that's when I found out that FEMA National Guard was preventing people from helping people. I saw with my own eyes, they blew up the levees. They did not break open. They blew them up. I went to Occupy Wall Street. I went to Zuccotti Park in downtown New York City, saw that firsthand. I went to North Dakota, to Standing Rock, where they're trying to, the water protectors are trying to stop the pipeline. And I've seen this stuff for firsthand, and I've seen firsthand, because it's always different than what you expect, always. And when I see, firsthand versus how it's reported, it's never, ever, 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 ever remotely close.
Isn't that just amazing?
Just don't ever. I'm sorry. There's always elements of truth, because the truth has to cover the lies. But really, it's the propaganda and how they spin it. It's just never accurate. It's just not.
Yeah, we'll just call it lies.
They're lies. They're fabrications.
Yep.
Yeah.
They are. I have had so much fun with you here. I really appreciate it. I know Candy has had a few very late nights, and she's been back and forth, and I want to make sure that I give you reverence to your time, because I do appreciate it. We would love to have you back on here. If you have anything that you want to talk about or promote, everybody go to saveourskies.org.
Right.
And you also want to go to Foghorn Express. Is it .substack?
So it's Renette Senums. So put the S on the end. Renette Senums, Foghorn Express .substack.com. And I do videos, commentaries, articles, things like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we're right on the hour. And is there anything? Is there a thought or something that you would love to leave our family with, that could set in their heart or set in their mind, or give them something good to take to that person that just totally believes this crap, hook, line, and sinker? Is there something you would like to leave them with? Well,
I would just say this is that, ultimately what we're going through, I think, is a spiritual war. Yep. But in a way that we're meant to be better and to do better. And so, evil never prevails. It never prevails. Now, how long will it go on? 6 months, 60 years? It's up to us. But evil always has this seed of destruction within it, and it is eating its own tail right now. But I would really suggest that people go out there and they activate, but they do it and they really laugh and have joy and commune and have dinners and actually, feel the emotions, let it wash over you, but ultimately don't forget to have the joy and the laughter, because that's what the entities out there don't like, is for you to have joy, laughter, and love. And so go out there and do. That's the best thing you can do. And don't be afraid to build community. It starts with one potluck, 1 week at a time. And it's really one of the most enjoyable things I've ever done.
Yeah, I really enjoy it too. I mean, my neighbor will have 1 or 2 a year, and through all the boogeyman times, there's some people that are standing off or wouldn't come in the front door. They stood outside the front door with their masks on, and it broke my heart. I just wanted to hug them and say, do you this is a lie, and you're being run with it.
I know. It's so sad. It is psychological warfare. It really is. It's really sad. And it really is sad. But we're making it. I mean, we're pushing back. We're making it. People are waking up. We're really fast. Lahaina has awakened a lot more people. And and just I really say trust your own instincts. She's back. Trust your own instincts, your own intuition. It's spot on.
I do believe that you know what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
And family, I want to thank you all for coming here. Whether you were here live or you're going to come here 2 days from now, we really appreciate you. I absolutely enjoyed you so much, Renette.
Guys, thank you so much.
Please come back anytime. I know Candy feels the exact same way. And we love you. We love what you do. You have our support. I'm going to be looking at your sites, and we're going to see what we can do to help you out.
Fantastic.
Help ourselves.
Help ourselves. We're helping everybody, right? That's right. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And nice to meet all of you out there. Thank you so much for your support.
Family, we will see you next week or the week after that. Thank you again, Candy. I love you. And let's just say good night to everyone and have a great dinner.
Bye, everyone.
Probably not going to want to hear this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Always go with the choice that scares you the most, because it's the choice that's going to help you grow.
Wow.
I can't do negative today. Positive vibes, positive vibes.
Hey, best friend. Wait. To the person seeing this, I know you're tired. I know you're fed up and so close to breaking. But remember, you have strength within you even when you feel weak. Keep fighting, best friend.